Hello and welcome to EL 101 Part 11, focused on English learners at the secondary level. English learners at the secondary level face increasingly demanding academic content standards at the same time they are learning a new language and culture. This module will address specific topics surrounding this student population. For this module, we will first explore procedures for enrolling English learners in high school and awarding credits from any previously completed education, followed by an explanation of the English as a New Language, or ENL, course. Next, we will discuss the benefits of the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency, which recognizes EL students' home language proficiency. Then, we will discuss the involvement of all school staff in secondary EL success. And to wrap up, we will take a brief look at the IDOE Secondary English Learners Toolkit. It is beneficial to ensure that those who will be responsible for enrolling possible English learners at the high school level have a thorough understanding of the legal requirements and the possibilities for awarding credits based on prior education. This portion of the module will look more deeply into the steps for enrollment as well as the process for awarding credits. A school must provide equal access for English learners, and they must be enrolled in credit-bearing courses to meet graduation requirements, as well as be expected to graduate in 4 years. A public school must comply with its legal obligation under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which requires schools to take affirmative steps to ensure that English learners can meaningfully participate in educational programs and services, including federally law-required English language development. Per Indiana Code, children less than 18 years of age and who intend to remain in Indiana for 30 days must be enrolled in school. Students over 18 years of age, including English learners, have a constitutional right to attend school until they receive a high school diploma. Receipt of a high school equivalency diploma is not equivalent to a high school diploma and does not extinguish the right to earn a high school diploma. Now let's take a few moments to go over enrollment procedures for ELs in high school. As covered in the module for identifying English learners, the identification procedures for EL services for high school students are the same. If a home language survey, or HLS, indicates a language other than English, then the WHEDA screener may need to be given in order to determine the student's current level of English proficiency. First, it must be determined where the student is enrolling from. If students are transferring from another Indiana school or a WHEDA state, obtain the annual English proficiency results to determine the student's current level of English proficiency. If not coming from Indiana or a WHEDA state, administer the placement test. It is important to know how a school may offer credits so that a student may meet graduation requirements. The first area to explore would be that of awarding credits based on transfer transcripts. High schools should make every effort possible to transfer credits for students enrolling from other countries. The IDOE recommends that the school attempt to obtain a list of content area course descriptions from the native country in order to determine the content equivalence of courses. Awarding credits based on transferred transcripts is a local decision. However, every effort should be made to honor credit and achievement from the student's previous schooling. This may involve the use of hired translators, school staff, district staff, family discussions, research into previous schooling systems, or a combination of the above. A school may also offer credits based on demonstration of proficiency. For instance, students transferring from another country will often speak another language and could receive credit for native language skills by utilizing the World Language Approved Course titles, including the World Language Course title of Other, for the description of low incidence languages. Students can demonstrate proficiency in various courses by receiving a passing score on an end of course assessment for a course without taking the course. Many schools utilize final exams for this purpose. After determining the number of credits that can be awarded, cohort placement can be determined. As far as creating a schedule for a high school English learner, it is important to utilize the awarded credits and the results of the English proficiency assessment in order to determine the appropriate English course and other content area disciplines with the necessary support. All English learners must be enrolled in credit-bearing courses, including English language arts. It is important to note that all English learners must be provided with their required English language development services per Lau versus Nichols. Teachers shall not modify the teaching and learning by removing the responsibility to learn the appropriate grade level academic standards. However, schools must provide meaningful access to the general education curriculum through differentiated supports and multiple methods for students to demonstrate their understanding of the content. Indiana adopted the WIDA ELD standards to meet these requirements. The WIDA standards framework must be utilized for all English learners in all subjects by all teachers, as well as the created Individualized Learning Plan, or ILP. The programming to ensure that English learners are on track to graduate must be regularly evaluated. Support should be revised based upon the results of the English proficiency assessment, student progress, family feedback, and teacher input. EL student graduation and credit audits should be performed regularly to support these efforts and ensure schedules are built appropriately. We are now going to step away from the enrollment process and take a look at how EL services can be provided at the secondary level. If you have further questions on enrolling a student at the high school level, please reference the documents on Moodle, contact a member of the English Learner team, or fill out a technical assistance request form on the Office of Student Support and Accessibility website. Courses co-taught by core content teachers and EL teachers can be an effective model for providing English language development while also supporting content area instruction. 7 different co-teaching models are outlined by Andrea Honigsfeld and Maria Dove in their research on best practices for co-teaching with English learners. In Model 1, students are in one large group. One teacher presents the lesson, while the other teacher targets students within the group who may need one-to-one support simultaneously. In Model 2, students are in one large group, and the teachers share the responsibility of presenting the lesson together. In Model 3, students are in one large group. One teacher presents the lesson while the other teacher assesses understanding during the lesson. In Model 4, students are broken into 2 groups, each taught by one teacher presenting the same content. In Model 5, students are in 2 groups. One teacher pre-teaches content needed for the next whole group lesson, while the other teacher presents other information. In Model 6, students are in 2 groups. One teacher reteaches content for students while the other presents other information. Finally, in Model 7, students are in multiple small groups being monitored and seen by both teachers. This is similar to stations at the elementary level. These models can be mixed and matched throughout the course of a lesson or unit based on student need. A common method of providing EL services is via the English as a New Language class, where EL students receive direct instruction in a specific class taught by an EL teacher of record. According to the Indiana State approved course titles and descriptions, an ENL course can be utilized in 2 ways depending on which state code is used. ENL can be coded as an English Language Arts credit, code 1012, if the course addresses Indiana's academic standards for English Language Arts. In order to teach the course, the instructor must hold both an ELA and ENL license. The course can count for up to 8 credits on the student's transcript. On the other hand, ENL can also be counted as a world language credit, code 2188, if the course addresses Indiana's academic standards for world language and is taken concurrently with another English Language Arts credit. If coded in this manner, the instructor for the course should hold an ENL license. Up to 4 credits may count as a world language credit. The school must decide which credit to offer prior to the student taking the course. For more information on course guidance, you can see Appendix B of the Secondary English Learner Toolkit. Next, let's review the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency. This is also known as the Seal of Biliteracy around the country, and all 50 U.S. states are somewhere upon their path to implement this award. It is stressed that educators focus on the assets of English learners, not their deficits. Students' home languages are wonderful assets, and the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency has created a way to celebrate them. The Indiana Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency is an award made by a participating school corporation, charter school, or accredited non-public high school, designating on a student's transcript that the student has attained a high level of proficiency, sufficient for meaningful use in college and a career in one or more languages in addition to English. The first graduating class to implement this program was in the spring of 2017. 28 school corporations implemented the program with over 184 students receiving the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency. The program and numbers continue to increase, with 70 plus LEAs implementing to date. A positive attribute of the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency is that Indiana has identified approved assessments that have to be taken to receive the recognition. These assessments come in 90 plus languages. This is a benefit for our ELs, as we have over 275 languages represented in Indiana among our students. If a student takes the required assessment and receives a score at or equivalent to intermediate high, this will count as 3 years of world languages or 6 credits. An English learner can take this assessment at any time during their high school career from freshman year all the way through senior year. In order for a student to earn a Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency, there are 3 requisites. First, students must earn 6 world language credits through coursework. The second requirement is that students must also pass an approved external language assessment at the intermediate high level of proficiency. If a student is already proficient in another language when they enter high school, they can take the language assessment as early as freshman year and automatically earn 6 world language credits. Students can take the language assessment at any time during their high school career. The last requirement for Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency is that the students must earn at least 8 credits in English language arts. This section has been recently updated as there have been changes made to ruling in the code. Previously, the assessment required was ISTEP, but now has been broadened to include any grade 10 English language arts qualifying exam. For many schools, this is the SAT, but it also allows for other assessments for different graduation pathways. For former English learners, an exiting score of 5.0 or higher on WIDA Access will also meet this requirement. Let's take a look now at how other school leaders, such as administrators and counselors, can impact student achievement at the secondary level. In order for ELs to find success, especially at the secondary level, it is important to share responsibility. Content and EL teachers and families play a big role. However, administrators and counselors also play a key role in the success of ELs, not to mention the important contributions of other school members such as front office staff, family liaisons, and paraprofessionals. One of the biggest considerations for administrators and counselors is the great number of areas of impact for ELs. At the secondary level, scheduling and EL service models are always at the forefront. Appendix B in the secondary toolkit provides information on the various courses for which ELs can receive credit. This brings us to the next area of impact. Secondary ELs come with a wide range of past school experiences. Admins and counselors need to consider how they can award credit for these experiences. Transcript audits and native language assessments can be a great starting point. Additionally, consider EL student involvement in extracurriculars, gifted, AP, and other school programs. Are they represented in these programs? And if not, how can we help make these activities more accessible? Furthermore, consider involvement of all school staff and parents to create a strong sense of community. Additional training and resources for administrators and guidance counselors are shown here. First, on the WIDA Secure portal, there are on-demand, self-paced modules that are free to access and have valuable information about how to help multilingual learners be successful at the secondary level. 2 examples are listed here. Leading for Equity, Classroom Walkthrough and School Improvement Planning for the Equitable Education of MLs. Another important area of support for ELs is their families. Linked on the slide and in the Moodle, you'll have access to a template of family culture surveys to help your whole school community learn more about your multilingual families and what their goals are for their children, what supports they have and might need, and most importantly, help establish that connection and partnership. Finally, on the Indiana English Learner Moodle, we have archived 2 previous office hours on school-wide programming for secondary ELs, and a longer session on the secondary toolkit and creative scheduling for ELs. All resources and links can be found on the Moodle under the logo for EL office hours. We now would like to highlight the IDOE Secondary Toolkit for ELs. The most current iteration of the toolkit can be found on the IDOE English Learner website. The IDOE Secondary EL Toolkit was developed in collaboration with stakeholders across the state in order to provide additional guidance and resources to schools surrounding secondary EL topics. To give you an overview, this is the table of contents of the Secondary Toolkit. It discusses a variety of topics from newcomer students to long-term ELs, scheduling, accountability, and other important considerations. These additional resources can also help as you think about secondary programming for ELs. They can be found in the Learning Lab by using the search term supporting secondary ELs. This concludes our module on English learners at the secondary level. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to a member of our English learner team at the Indiana Department of Education. Thank you.